All right, guys, well, welcome back to another episode of our webinar series, really our growth-based webinar series. Today is a webinar I've really been looking forward to. My hitting coach, my days when I played at Tampa Bay, none other than Jamie Nelson. Jamie, thanks so much for joining us, man.
My pleasure, BG. My pleasure. It's good to see your face. Good to hear your voice.
I know I've been talking to you a lot lately. I get to finally see you. It's been a couple years, man. So, yeah, thanks again. And currently, Jamie's the one of the hitting coaches in the Tampa Bay Rays organization. Where are you? You said you're
Montgomery, Double A.
Montgomery,
Double A.
Double A. But yeah. So Nelly, as I call him, was the hitting coach in Tampa Bay for me when I was there. Him and Derek Shelton. But yeah, Nelly is one of my favorite coaches I've ever got to work with, play for. So to have him on was a no-brainer just to talk about hitting. But it's hitting, but it's also the mind, how the mind controls the hitting, and we'll get into all aspects of that. But first, Nelly came up with, he has so many good nuggets. This really his philosophies all in he wrote them all down. And so really I went through it and wrote some bullet points, and we're going to go through those step by step. And, I really think there's just so much good information out there for, no matter, I was just going to say high schoolers, but it's really any age group. No matter what level you're at, you can learn something, whether you're big league, college, high school, little league. No matter what age, even my son who's about to play T-ball could probably learn something. So it's just great, valuable stuff. So, yeah, Nelly, if you can get into it first. The first thing I was going to talk about, you preach the key to successful hitting is contact point, getting a good contact point. Obviously, there's more that goes into it and everything, but, if you wanted to start with that and what made you think that it's contact point that is most critical, and what kind of gets you there?
Well, I mean, in a perfect world, we're completely balanced at contact. That's a perfect world. But as you know as well as I do, we get fooled sometimes on some off-speed pitches. So your body's not always in the correct position, and you can be off balance and have a good contact point on the ball with your energy going through the ball, and not only hit it hard, but drive it. I told you before, I'm not here to talk about my past and this and that, but one of the things that I learned, the farthest ball I ever hit was a splitter that was about shin high over the middle of the plate, and I was so fooled, but I just kept on going. I kept my shoulder and head on it. I ended up hitting it out to left field, but my entire energy was going through that baseball, and I just happened to catch it perfectly on the ball. And that proved something to me. I would say there's been times where we didn't have extension, but yet we had good contact point on the ball, and you hit the ball hard. Ideally, you'd like to have the contact point on the ball and your body. That's when you get your tape measure bat flip tosses. I know when we were together, we'd see Zobrist hit a home run. He didn't toss his bat, he laid it down. Once he laid it down, we knew he got it. But the contact point is huge. And I don't think we work on that enough. We work on our swing. Well, you know what? You don't hit the ball right. I could be in a perfect swing at perfect contact point on my body and be above or below the ball. So how good is it on my body? Yet I could be a little bit further off balance and hit on the top inside half and get some backspin and drive the ball. So I personally think that's the most important part, is getting to that desired contact point on the baseball.
Yeah, and dude, when you're saying that, it just brings me back to working with you, and luckily for me, I've always had a short swing, but because of that, the contact point would kind of get off sometimes, and I would cut my swing off and not necessarily get through it. So one thing you always said with me is if you're punching someone, you want to get through it, not just make contact, get through it. So that was something we consistently worked on. And I remember coming back off the DL before we faced David Price, just being in the cage, like not feeling good, but just working on drills with you about literally just getting a good contact point and getting through the ball. Like that's the name of the game. And then I went in, had a good game, but it's just because that was in my head and ingrained in there. So it's just like everything took off. And I know for you, I'm just going over some of what you talk about in that you wrote down and what you preach. Slow things down to have good ball recognition, pitch recognition. Sorry, I can't read right now. And on deck, get in rhythm with your pitcher, sync up with them, like dance. And then your at bats should start way before you get in the box. We'll get into the on deck routine, which is so critical for any age group. And then just spend enough time working on rhythm to get in the good contact point. So you combine those things, that and other stuff we'll talk about, that leads you to get to that good contact point, right?
I think so. I think one of the most important things is for somebody to be able to repeat their load. And when I say that, I mean, from no matter where you start your hands, it doesn't matter, down, up, over here. But I want to get to a consistent power position. Yours might be different than mine. Most guys, their power position's pretty similar, maybe a quarter to a half inch, maybe to an inch off in difference from somebody else. But the bottom line is, if I can get to that power position to be ready to launch or pull my trigger to go forward to the baseball every time, I have a better chance of acquiring and attaining that desired contact point. The problem is we don't work on our load enough. We take it for granted. And this happens, and I think it's one of the biggest traps, DG. I think it happens during batting practice when you got some 50-year-old guy, 60-year-old guy, no offense because I'm 60, but you got somebody throwing 50 to 60 miles an hour, 60 if you're lucky. And so I can actually start my load when he lets go of the ball. Well, that's not going to put me in good position for 7 o'clock.
You get away with things, right?
And not only working on that load, but it's getting me to know me. So I'm facing Brandon Geyer. Okay, he's on the mound. And I did see you pitch, by the way. So he's on the mound. Now, when I'm doing this, I'm not just learning Brandon Geyer. I'm learning me. And I'm learning how to slow my load down to get to that desired trigger point. We don't work on it enough. We get in a trap during BP of starting too late and not working on the importance of that. Well, if a desired contact point is my purpose, I need to have that down, and it needs to be slow and under control, because when I'm going to go forward, it's a controlled violence.
Yep.
And that initial route, if my load is back here and it's too quick, my initial route is this way, and I'm going to lose my bat head, and it could cost me a half an inch to a quarter inch on where I make contact on the ball, just because I didn't get to that power position soon enough, or I had somewhat of a too fast and out of control load. Does that make sense to you?
Dude, you saying that's what, remember at times I'd be like up there standing and almost like jump at the ball.
Right.
At least early on. And but then working with you and everyone, I was really, you always say slow and easy. And for whatever, I never, I used to do it and stuff. I got away from it, but just really doing that consistently, especially when you're on deck and acting like you're in the box and actually getting in that bat while you're on deck and getting slow and easy with the pitcher, dude, it makes such a big difference. And, a lot of times, whether it's high school games, college games, you see guys go out on deck and they're just doing stuff to get loose, and the pitcher's pitching and they're looking at the stands, they're, throwing the bat around like this. Whereas if you can take that and really sink in with the pitcher, and at the same time, I know you're big on visualization. Like if you can be on deck and visualize, okay, as a righty, I want to hit a line drive or hit the ball super hard. If I get under it, a home run to the opposite field gap.
Right.
Things like that. If you can do that on deck before you get to the plate while you're working on the rhythm, I mean, you're just going to be that much better of a position to succeed, right?
Well, I'm gonna throw something at you, and I know you remember it. You had to have remembered it. James Loney. All right. I always say when a guy comes in and you're working, you could be working in the dugout and just sitting there. As soon as he's moving, I'm moving. You're dancing with him. That's where the rhythm comes in. The tempo of that rhythm's up to you. But we all know that when we start late, that's when everything speeds up, and now all of a sudden that baseball becomes a marble or a golf ball. It doesn't mean you can't hit. It could still be a fastball. You get it in the right spot, you still hit it. But what you're doing is when you start late is you're speeding that ball up. I want to make 195. I want to make 95-90. I want to make 90-85. And learning how to slow that down is an art, and we don't work on it enough. What we think we're doing is we go into the machine and we put it on 100, and we think that's slowing us down, get ready for 100. No, start sooner and slower. But Loney would have just made the last out. Not the last out of the inning, but he made the last out. Now we bring in a reliever, all right? Loney's not even up for another 9 guys. And he's watching the reliever, and he's just sitting there going, just working on his load the entire time. He's not even going to be up for another inning or two.
Well, there's a reason he hit around 300 every year.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The importance, he had control of that load to get to the trigger position to where when I'm getting ready to go forward, I'm under control, I'm precise and direct to the ball.
Yeah, I mean, there's other reasons he hit 300 every year. Obviously, hand-eye coordination, great swing. But
sure,
the fact what you were just talking about is a huge reason why he was able to do that for sure. And something that you worked on with me a lot, worked on with a lot of guys, is have that approach, anticipate the pitch you're looking for, and be like, yes, no. But assume that's going to be the pitch, the one you're looking for, the fastball away. It's going to be that pitch every time. So you're yes. So you are slow and early, and you're on time, because if it is that pitch, you're going to do damage to it. So I know you're big on that.
I'm big on anticipating and looking. I firmly believe there's a mind-eye-body connection. Okay, we only have to cover all pitches with two strikes, and a man on third infield in. And then you don't have to cover all pitches. You just got to cover all pitches that are up in the zone. That might be your only pitch to hit the fly ball. With 2 strikes, you got to cover everything that could be a strike. Now there's no more hit and runs, and there's no more squeezes. So those are the only other 2 times. So now in the game of baseball today, you only have 2 times where you have to cover all pitches. And one of the times it's only a specific spot in the zone. So if my desired contact point is to be reached, it would behoove me to stick with one pitch and stay committed. Okay, and I'm going to throw a name at you. And there's several names that you've faced and that we've seen. But Fernando Rodney, when Fernando Rodney was on, 97 to 99, with an 81-mile-an-hour Bugs Bunny changeup, I don't care who you are, and I don't care who you think you are. You're not covering both pitches. You're not covering both pitches. You got to look one or the other. Now, I said one name. We could probably go over 100 of those guys that have pitches that it's too hard to cover both, and you don't have to. So for me, prior to 2 strikes, you're looking for a pitch. Your brain is telling your eyes what to look for. And then your eyes see that, and it organizes your body to do damage on that pitch. Otherwise, we're just reacting. You know as well as I do. You played for a long time. I've been in this game 42 years. It's hard to cover all that stuff, and you don't have to. And what happens sometimes when we try to cover them both, I'm late on the fastball and in between on the off-speed pitches.
Oh, yeah.
Now I'm at. Instead of understanding how to commit to a pitch in a zone and staying committed to that, the biggest problem is we don't work on it enough during BP. And when I'm working on it, my eyes tell my body no. Otherwise, I'm firing. But your only decision is no. But you have to say no. You don't have to, but we give up a lot of at-bats by not saying no.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't have a plan, we give up a lot of at-bats by just swinging. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us had good hand-eye coordination, so you're putting the ball in play, but it's weakly hit.
Dude, I did that so much.
Now you're mad. So
Yeah.
getting smarter and controlling your at-bats, the stuff I wrote about, it's about controlling your at-bats. And I don't think that we do a good enough job of it when we have the opportunity to work on things that will help it.
Mm-hmm. Totally, dude. And, I know one thing you talk about when you're on deck, maybe even before you get on deck. I mean, before the game, you should, if you face the pitcher before, nowadays you see video, you know how he's probably going to attack you. But if you're in high school or college, you've never seen him and there's no video, still watch the game before you hit. But if you're leading off, watch him in warm-ups and just go up to the plate with an approach. Because if you're not, then you talk about you're going to become a reactionary hitter. Whereas if you have a plan, a bad plan is better than no plan. And I know you say that. So it's better to have some sort of plan than have no plan and just,
Right.
to go up there and I'm just going to swing to swing. You're going to get hits, you're going to get lucky, but on a consistent basis, that's not going to happen. So, I know going to the plate, talking about that stuff, like going over that in your head. Then you talk about breathing, and I'm a huge advocate for breathing. I had it stitched in my wristband, you said breathe nice and slow on deck before stepping into the box. You can really breathe all times, but especially when you're on deck to slow you. Because if you're in a late game situation, I feel like, and you're on deck and, runner on second base, and in your mind, you're like, oh, I might come up in this big situation. If you're not really breathing, and all that anxiety and stress is going to get to you, you're going to be thinking about things you should not be thinking of instead of your actual approach. So I love that when you talk about the breathing, not just going to the plate or on deck, but in between each pitch, stuff like that. So, anything else that, for on deck, because we're trying to go in order here, like dugout, on deck, heading to the plate, that you would think we should cover?
Well, yes. And it came up a couple times over the last couple years. We have all the data on these guys. We know what they ate the night before. We know what they ate for breakfast. We know everything about them. We know what they're thinking before they do. So you have all this information down. Brandon Guyer throws 98 miles an hour. He's 95 and will touch 98. Okay? You look at that and you kind of get an idea. I didn't have the benefits of that when I played. We're not going to go back to the Stone Age and, prehistoric times. I get it. But my point is, I see 98. And that registers in my mind. How does that get your body ready? How do you just walk out of the dugout and say, okay, I'm ready for 98? So I need to look and watch the game and see what this guy's throwing. I need to dance with him to see if I have to speed up my tempo and get that rhythm going. And Brandon Guyer threw, he's hitting 97, 98 all throughout his outing tonight. 3 days later, we face him again. And he's sitting 93, 94. Okay? How do you get ready for that? You know what I mean? So sometimes we count on that data when you said it a minute ago, watch the game. Get out and move your body to his. Get out and dance. He's not dancing as fast today. And we always, and you're a fully equipped athlete. We don't always feel good every day. And some day we're 80%, some days we're 90%. But one day you've got 97, 98, and the next day or 2 days later, you got 93, 94. Yet we saw 98, so we're sped up. Mm-hmm. Instead of getting out there and diligently dancing with that pitcher. That tells you everything. And I think sometimes we don't understand how valuable that tool is. Then once you do that, the only thing you have to do when you get into the box is you have the right angle and you set your committed pitch or the pitch that you want to be committed to. But I've already been working on my rhythm to dance with him. And the tougher it gets, you got guys like Cueto and in the shimmy and the quick step or slide step. You got to be ready for that. So in BP and in the on-deck circle, as soon as he comes set, start moving. Start moving. I can always speed it up or slow it down. But if I start it late, we know it's trouble. We know it's trouble.
Love it, man. So true. So there's other thing, we talk about going up to the plate. We already did our work on deck. We're walking up to the plate, getting in the box. By that time, hopefully you should have a committed approach that you have in your mind based on the situation. Runner on second, no outs. Yeah, going up there, you should have in your head, okay, I'm not going to try to hit an inside pitch. I'm looking for something away to drive that way. But have that set approach based on the situation. And then, try to stay committed to it. Think about the contact point you need for it. Be ready early, like you always stress. And then I think for me that it was huge when you're actually swinging, keeping your head on the ball, not pulling off, not hitting the ball and going to see the result real quick. Whether, we'll get into BP later because I know stuff you do with BP is huge. Some approaches you have to it. But as far as just right now, the game, when you're hitting the ball, not taking your head off of it, because by doing that, you're going to throw things off and then you're going to think, like a lot of hitting coaches do, it's mechanics, but really it's what you're thinking up here that's leading you to do that and throwing off everything. So anything else, like when you're actually hitting, I know you have checkpoints, which I love, approach, the load phase, swing, finish, result. If you want to just go over those.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you what can happen. Okay, you go up to the plate, man on first, nobody out. Manager gives you a hit and run. All right? Must have been in 1980s because that hit and run's over. But he gave you a hit and run. I got to think of the toughest pitch to cover on a hit and run. All right? So it's usually that high pitch. High inside. So I got to get ready to get here depending upon your team's philosophy. Guy throws a wild pitch, and I swung at it. Guy goes to second base. Now there's a man on second, nobody out. I got to get a pitch to hit the other way. I'm trying to drive and move that runner. That's my second approach. Wild pitch. Now the man's at third. Counts 1-1, infield in. All right. Now I'm looking for a ball up. Approach number 3 in my first at bat. All right. So now it's the third different approach. So now I'm looking for something up. I could drive into the outfield. And as soon as I see it down, my eyes say shut off. Pass ball or wild pitch. Or it doesn't matter. Guy scores. Now we go back to 0-0. Nobody on. It's a 2-1 count. Now I'm looking for a pitch to do damage on. And then he throws me a strike. I foul the ball off. Now I got 2 strikes. You have 5 different approaches in 5 different pitches in one at bat. Okay, and my philosophy is, we used to call it, what time is it? Inning, score, who's up, who's pitching, your run, the importance of all that. So what I like to do is I like to have my hitters have checkpoints. What pitch am I looking for that I'm going to be committed to? Okay, starting sooner and slower. Number 3 is attacking that pitch and not going outside of my discipline. Number 4 is keeping the head on the ball. And number 5 should be a well-struck ball or a ball that I drove or a ball that I hit solid. So after my at-bat, I come back over. I know where I messed up. I probably pulled an early or a late trigger, or I swung at a pitch out of my discipline. The other thing that we get to that can come into place on number 3, which is your swing to the ball, is sometimes my desire to hit the ball too hard. That's going to affect my trigger, which is going to affect my contact point, which is going to affect how hard I hit the ball. So those things to me are checkpoints. It has nothing to do with your swing. It has everything to do with what you're thinking and how you react to those thoughts. Mm-hmm. Okay, I could go over the tooth story now and the shower story now with that analogy. Yeah. But I think we get too fixated on mechanics. Where's my hands? Where's this, and that, and boom, 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 instead of thinking about attacking the baseball. And I believe that approach fixes mechanics. Okay, so if I'm thinking about hitting a ball 4, 5, 6 on the 1 through 7 chain, which is right center, okay, my eyes are telling me where I'm setting my sights up. Okay? Just doing that right there might get me more in line. I could stay more stacked, and I could stay more balanced and strong throughout the swing because of my thoughts of where I'm going to hit the ball. If the ball's inside, I'm not swinging at it because I can't hit it over there anyway. Mm-hmm. And if I do swing at it, then my discipline goes out the door, and my body does not organize itself to do that damage. And that's where I think we mess up sometimes. We think about mechanics, and consequently, we swing at pitches we shouldn't be swinging at. I'm watching some of these highlights on a daily basis on guys early in the count, and these are major league hitters that still don't know. And they're just reacting and weakly hitting the ball early in the count. Little squibber to the first baseman, your at-bat's over. That's on you. That has nothing to do with your swing. Nothing.
Mm-hmm. I was just watching Miguel Cabrera. He's playing the Indians right before we jumped on here, and he's struggling. His first at-bat, first pitch, kind of like cut her away. He swings, lazy pop-up, foul ground, first base. One of the best hitters for the past decades. It shows, like, obviously, you know, he's great, but he's just right now, he's not thinking, or like you said, he's probably trying to do too much, or when you're going through a tough time to get out of it, you want to hit that bomb or you want to do something. And so it happens. I mean, we can talk about it and everything. That doesn't mean it's easy. Like, it's happening to him. It's happened to the best players who have ever played this game. But if you can do this kind of stuff and not, you know, you said it perfectly, like trying to do too much and everything, you're going to come back and be like, oh, I know what it was. My hands were too high, or I'm going to open up my stance. Now I'll be good. No, if you work on this, people don't want to work on the 6 inches in their head. You know, they want to change their hands. And hey, I was guilty of that so much. And I think a lot of baseball players are. But then later on in my career, as I get up in the big leagues throughout the minor leagues, that got better and better, you know, working with different hitting coaches and, you know, learning like the correct ways to go about it. But until you know that, you're in that mode of changing everything instead of changing it here, you know?
Well, how many people talk to you about it besides me? You know what I mean? I think it's of utmost importance. I'm not saying I'm the only one to think about it. There's a lot of mental strength coaches out there. That's their gig. And I agree with them wholeheartedly and support them immensely. But most coaches are going to go to your hands. Well, I think if you put your hands right here, you're trapping your hands. Well, why am I trapping my hands? Because I'm trying to knock the crap out of the ball. So I'm loading for bear, and then all of a sudden I'm doing this. Well, it became a mechanical problem. Why did it become a mechanical problem? Because of the way I was thinking. I liken it to a car, your body. Your body's the car, okay? Gas allows our engine to run efficiently, okay? But when we have problems, we don't think about the gas. We change the spark plugs, or we're the oil, or we're putting air in the tire. No, the car runs on good gas. If you put the wrong gas in, it will screw up your engine. Putting the right gas in will allow that engine to run efficiently. And this is your gas tank. Okay, and a lot of times we want to fix the body of the car. Well, if you're out of gas and you got a dent in your car, you don't fix the dent. You got to put gas in the car. So I just think sometimes we think in the wrong direction. And with all the mechanics and the new swings and the new this and that, everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid. And I just think there's a shorter fix. I'm not saying their fix won't work. But you know what? I liken that to them using a crescent wrench, when if you use your brain, you're using a socket wrench. Because with a crescent wrench, it'll either take too long to get it done or it won't get done. But a socket wrench will get it done faster.
Totally.
Everything's about what you think. I mean, we didn't come out of our mother's womb learning how to brush our teeth or take a shower. Over time, you learn how to do that. Okay? Now, we can do it in our sleep, right? You could close your eyes and brush your teeth or take a shower and wash everything you need to wash perfectly with your eyes closed. Okay, now let's throw some information in there. You have nerve damage on one of your teeth. Okay, that information, which would be the same information of getting a pitch in the 4, 5, 6 spot or 2, 3, 4 spot, meaning in or out or away, whatever, or I'm sitting breaking ball. That information will change my mechanics, just like the nerve that's killing me in my tooth. Right? I'm not going to brush my teeth the same way based on that information. So I have to change my mechanics to get it done. Or you're taking a shower and you've got a gash in your leg. Well, that's pretty good information. I don't want some pain. So it changes the way I wash my body. So it changes my mechanics there. So using our brain, well, let's just put it to you this way. It's ignorant not to use the brain that God gave you in order to think, because the information we put in is usually pretty good information. When we don't put that information in, we just become reactionary. Why would I just want to react instead of reacting to some information or have good knowledge that's going to help me with this? It just makes too much sense to not want to do.
Yep.
A lot of times we go to the physicality.
Yeah, dude. So I was speaking at a camp the other day. I talked to you a couple of days ago about it. And one guy was talking to me asked me what I thought of the launch angle, all that stuff. And it got me back to my rookie year. I came out early to watch Miguel Cabrera. I know I'm bringing him up again. One of the best hitters ever. Why not talk about him? But yeah. I remember going out early for BP and watching him from the side and just looking at his load, because personally for me, you've seen, like, I never had a huge load or, anything, crazy. So I would go out there and I watch his setup and load, how pretty it is, getting it back. I'm like, man, I want to do that. So I remember for a while there, I was actually trying to do that. And into that off season, I was like, I'm going to try to hit like him. And it's not bad to emulate them, but you're never going to get to where they are, because you don't know what they're thinking. He has that, whatever he's doing with his load, but it works great for him because whatever he's thinking up here in his approach or just confidence or whatever, you don't have that same thought process that he's going through. So that swing works perfectly for what he's thinking. So you got to develop your swing, but more so develop your mind, and then your swing, your natural talent will help take over and put your body in the right position.
Right. Well, I remember us going to Detroit, and your boy Steven Sousa said to me before the game, he goes, Miguel's kind of lost his power the other way. I don't think he's as good a the other way hitter, yada, yada, yada. Well, Erasmo was throwing that game, and he threw him a 1, which is right on the inside corner, right on the black. Mm-hmm. Most guys are trying to yank that thing into left field or get the head out and boom, boom, boom. He hit it 440 feet to straightaway center. And I talked to some other guys that said his approach is to go to right center. That's what he wants to do. He wants to hit a home run to right center. So it keeps him strong, keeps him on the ball. And he also knows the only reason why they're coming inside is to tie him up. So it's easier to get extended outside or over the plate or outside. Much harder to get extended on a 1-2 pitch, which is the inside part of the plate. So he just felt, you know what, screw it. I'll fight those off with 2 strikes. Other than that, I'm looking to go up the middle the other way. And if you looked at his home runs and his success rate, his fastballs that were hit hard or hit for home runs were from about maybe left center over to right field.
Yeah.
Balls he hit out to left field were all off-speed pitches. But what's funny about that is he hit 2 home runs to right field against us in Detroit, and then came to Tampa and hit 2 more to right field. And I looked at Seuss and I said, what report are you looking at? He hasn't lost anything. But again, it's the approach, and you can try to do that like Miguel Cabrera, but there's only one Miguel Cabrera.
And you can have the best swing in the world. Maybe not Miguel, but you have a swing that is pretty, maybe not perfect, because there's no perfect swing, but you have a beautiful swing. But if you're thinking the wrong things, that's going to mess up your route to the ball. If you're thinking home run, you're probably going to get long. The inside pitch, you're going to hook it instead of staying inside it like Miguel does because of his approach and what he's thinking. So get into that a little bit, the route of the ball, because I know you like, a short route to the ball. You have some great things in here. You say, the longer you can wait if you're shorter, the longer you wait, the better you see it. The better you see it, the better decision-making you're going to make. It goes on and on. But how important to you is the route to the ball? And obviously, your route to the ball, you're going to get your physical reps in the cage and BP, which we're going to get to in a second. But how important is your route to the ball and the thought process that actually leads to your route to the ball?
Well, if your route's shorter to the ball, okay, I'm more direct to the ball. That means I can see the ball longer. If I see the ball longer, I'm going to make a better decision. If I make a better decision, my contact point is more likely to come into play, and I'm going to get my desired result, which is a well-struck ball or a ball driven. I think sometimes with this launch angle thing, I think the thing that gets misconstrued is they use their backside to lift the ball. So now bat head's coming out and around, and then it's getting to the ball. So that initial route, is so much longer. And I'm not saying you can't hit that way, because there's guys that have long swings that are pretty good with their timing. But they have to be really good with staying committed to the pitches they're hunting. And they don't have as long to see the ball. So for me, I stole that from George Brett. He said, the longer I wait, the better I see it. The better I see it, the better my decision. The better my decision, the better my timing. The better my timing, the harder I hit the ball. The harder I hit the ball, the better the chance it goes into a hole, and it's indisputable.
Yep.
So why would I not want to do that? The longer I can see the ball, it's like if I asked you a question right now and I gave you 1 second to answer it. Or I asked you a question, I gave you 4 seconds to answer it. At least you get 3 more seconds to make a better decision. Not only that, the shorter your swing, the more compact and body-oriented you get into it. It's more in sync. The longer and harder I swing, the more apt I am to get out of alignment, and body parts are not in sync. And again, I'm not saying you can't hit, but it sure makes it tougher.
For sure. No doubt. So from there, let's get into batting practice. We're kind of going backwards, obviously you go batting practice, on deck, hit in the game. So we did the on deck, hit in the game. Now we're going to go to batting practice, before all of this. And, what is I know you have a really cool philosophy for BP. What is, to actually get the most out of it, not just do it to feel good, to actually maybe do it in a way to where it simulates live game action. So what are your thoughts on BP? Maybe, whether it's rounds, whether it's, how hard an actual pitcher's throwing at you, changing up the pitches. If you want to just explain that a little bit.
Well, I'm a little different cat in the sense of what I've recognized over the years is the old traditional lob the ball in so guys can get loose BP. That's useless. It's absolutely useless. Unless you're looking to stroke your ego and see how many rows deep, i.e. Yunel Escobar in the stands. We would do all this work inside, the work that I'm going to talk about inside, and it would be phenomenal. And he'd get out during BP and just try to hit the ball as far as he could hit it, trying to get to that second deck. But for me, I like to challenge things. If you want route work, it's going to be very minimal. So I'll give you 2 rounds of route work. Okay, after that, I'm going to get you on the fastball, and I am going to let it go. So I'm getting you to shorten your swing, and I'm getting you to hunt balls in specific zones. Okay, I can still hit traditional BP. But what is your approach to it? Okay, so the traditional BP, when I got traditional BP, because I didn't think it was very challenging, I tried to see how deep the ball could beat me and still get head on the ball without changing my route. So in other words, I'm just letting it travel a little more, and then I'm trying to see how quick I can be. When I do that, I'm syncing up my body. But I also believe the game has changed so much. My last 3 years in Tampa, when I was doing the advanced for our hitting, I noticed that the game is going majorly to off speed. I mean, it's guys are throwing a hundo. More guys are throwing a hundo, and more of those guys that are throwing a hundo are now throwing 65% off-speed pitches. Well, Albuquerque, when we play him for Detroit, throws 97 miles an hour. He throws 85% sliders. And this was 5-6 years ago when the hundos weren't as prevalent. But now it doesn't matter what you think, what I think. It's the way the game's going because of analytics. They have decided that not many people could hit the breaking ball, the off-speed pitches, so let's throw more of them as often as we can. Well, that makes sense. So we need to work on that. So not only would I challenge you your first round to hit fastballs at a high velocity, but then the second round, we're going to go nothing but breaking balls. But I'm going to tell you what's coming. It's nothing but breaking balls. So now you've seen a pretty fast fastball from about 35 feet, by the way. So the distance is shorter. So you got to move almost. In fact, with some guys that have leg kicks, I will tell them, I want you to start your leg kick before I go. Just so they see how important it is to slow that load down and be under control. And you look at all the guys that are really good, both hitters and power, their loads are slow. So we would go with the curveballs. Then the next round we'd go 2 strikes. So I'm going to throw you a 7, a ball in the outside corner, and I'm going to tell you look 7 up. Look for it around belt high. All right? That'll allow me to cover more pitches. If I just say look fastball, you might try to get to the inside fastball. Now you got no shot on off speed. So we go around, and I'll throw you the first 2 balls on the 7 ball, which is on the corner. So now you get your eyes adjusted for that. Then you don't know what's coming. I'll throw you a knuckleball, slider, curveball, fastball, and you're battling. You got to cover the whole zone. Next round, man on third, infield in. Okay? So now I'm not covering the whole zone. I'm looking for something to start at my rib cage. Okay? Once it pops up and it's at that rib cage, my eyes get big and it's, oh, yeah. Okay? The only thing that's troubling there is sometimes we will chase a high fastball. Sometimes we will chase a high fastball. It happens. It happens. But with this theory, it gives you a chance to hit that very first pitch, which could be the only pitch you have to drive that ball to the outfield for the RBI. After that, I'll say, okay, BG, sit on it. You're going to say sit on what? I'm going to say whatever you want to sit on. I'll know when you take the cockshot other pitch that you weren't sitting on that one. But during this round, I do not want you to swing at a curveball that I hang, even though you're looking for a fastball, and even though I hang it. Because this is a round where we're working on the ice to tell your body no. So as soon as it's not what I was looking for, no, immediately my body shuts down. So your brain's telling your eyes what to look for, and your eyes are organizing your body once they see what they see. It's either green light or red light. But we don't work on that enough. So then we'll go that route. And then I'll have you, then after we do that route, then we'll start having at-bats. So I'll give you about 10 at-bats, 15 at-bats, whatever. So now when you start the game at 6:30 now, most of them are at 6:30 now or 7 o'clock, 1 o'clock, whatever time your game starts, you've already had 10 at-bats to 15 at-bats before the game even started. So when you get up to that plate for that first at-bat, you're feeling pretty comfortable. And you've seen it all. Now if I tell Brandon Garr, hey, dude, this guy on 0-1 and 1-1, it is 90% off speed. Those are the 2 counts you sit on. If we hadn't seen an off-speed pitch all day, how well am I preparing you as a hitting coach? Not very well. Not very well. And, you know, you got the machines and you got the this and the that, but I prefer to throw it while I still can, praise the Lord, because it's more authentic, it's more game-like. I can change speeds and I can go down and up and make you compete. And we'll talk smack. I'll throw you a knuckleball and you'll miss it. And I'll say, I knew you couldn't hit that. Here's another one. And then I'll throw a fastball. So now we're talking smack to each other. So now we're getting competitive. Mm-hmm. So we've already competed immensely before the game even started. And I'll guarantee it's harder to hit some of my stuff from 35 feet than it is that guy 60 feet, 6 inches. There'll be times when you take a breaking ball and you spit on it. And I'll yell at you, mine's better. And you'll smile. So immediately we've got a little bit more relaxation. And we've already, obviously, the drill's working. But it does take a while. And at the beginning, when you first start this, when you get to the competition part, it's tough to get beat. Nobody likes to get beat. We want to go into the game feeling pumped up, chest out, chin up. But understanding that if we make that more difficult and the game easier, this is better. This is what determines whether it's easier or harder. Mm-hmm. And if we don't use this, we're stupid. I mean, God gave us a brain to figure things out. Life's about problem solving. Mm-hmm. So we have to solve these problems to the best of our capability. And what we do is a hard thing to do, man. Yeah. It's hard to hit.
And what you're talking about in that situation, we're training the eyes, we're training the mind. You know, with at that distance, you can't be up there, you know, from 30, 35 feet away, BP pitcher throwing hard and think about, oh, my load, all this stuff. You're thinking about, all right, seeing the ball. You're thinking what your your mind's telling you. And you saying that gets me thinking, you know, especially high school kids now who probably aren't playing a lot of games. They might go and play on the weekend or something like that. So that, you know, during the week they're not playing, but they're able to go to like a facility nowadays. What would be perfect for them is if they can go in there and if they have a BP coach, they're really kind of getting live at bats in a way, because right. The BP coach can do what you were talking about. So you don't go into that weekend game, or you don't go 3 or 4 days off not swinging. And maybe it's a showcase you're going to that could, you know, if you show out, could get you a scholarship. But if you go into it prepared and maybe do a BP like this and get live at bats, get those curveballs, get that pitch recognition, train your mind, train your eyes. It can only help you. And I do distinctively remember doing that with you. And I'm like anyone else. You want to feel good going into a game, or just sometimes BP, you want to feel good. And, you know, like when Charlie Montoya was pitching, his BP is just nice in there. You can get away with it. You end up feeling, yeah, you end up feeling really good after it. You know, and it was great and I loved it. But sometimes then you go into a game based 95 to 100, it's like, wait, my BP felt so good. Why am I missing this? I was feeling so good in BP. Well, you know, if you're not taking a BP like you're talking about, then that kind of, you know, changes things, changes your eyes and everything. So, dude, when you said that, I really think that the high schoolers and the people who aren't able to play a lot right now can benefit so much, because it'd be like they're getting those live at bats.
I agree. I think the biggest problem is BG is like a couple years ago, I had a kid named Mike Brasso, which made me really come up with this batting practice program. He kept swinging at 55-foot curveballs. So anyways, I'll spare you the details, but consequently, a month and a half later, my boy went from 220 with 3 home runs to 270 with 15 home runs. And I had another guy come over and say, why is he doing so well with the off-speed pitch and his pitch recognition? I said, because he works on it. You don't. You want to come in here and feel good. You want to do good, or you want to feel good? I mean, which one do you want? So understanding the importance of getting your butt beat a few times, and then all of a sudden being able to keep those hands back up there now and learning how to defend and learning how to be aggressive and this and that, that is learned over time. Nothing's easy. This sport is so tough, and hitting is so tough, yet we don't want to challenge ourselves because of what you just said. They want to feel good. And my question would be to them, you want to feel good or you want to be good? And I'll never forget, I don't really want to say his name, but one of our players, I'll tell you at another time, said to me, I'd rather feel comfortable in the box, not do well, than feel a little funky and hit line drives. And I said, that doesn't make sense to me. I don't get that. Why would you not want to do well? You'd rather do poorly, but feel good in the box. Okay. That's the same principle as the guy that I told you about before that only wanted a little slow toss before the game. And during his BP, I'd throw him curveballs. He didn't want them. No. I said, what do you mean, no? He goes, no, just fastball. And I said, is that all you're going to get in the game? And he goes, no, but that's all I'll swing at tonight. First pitch of the game, breaking ball, and he swings at. So getting real with yourself, the workouts that you do, the nutrition you put in your mouth, that's discipline. You know that's for the best of you. See, that's advanced thinking. We get spoiled in our society today. Oh, my Lord, are we sensitive and spoiled? Some of those guys might not want to be challenged. Some of them just want to hit the fastball and have the feel-good session. And that's great. That's fine. It's not going to do you any good at 7 o'clock when this guy's throwing sliders and breaking balls and change-ups. And, it's preparing to have a good competition. And your goal is not to get a base hit. My goal is to get my pitch and hit the ball hard. That's it. Mm-hmm. But if I know I'm going to encounter all these other pitches and yet I don't see them in batting practice, how am I supposed to do well against guys that actually have control of what they're throwing? So I just like the challenge theory. And you know what, BG, going back to Double-A and teaching them how to hit off speed has been so rewarding for my career because I came up with this stuff. And prior to that, I saw the direction that the game's going in. And Double-A is that level that if I'm not going to be in the big leagues, I wouldn't want to be in Triple-A. Double-A is the level to go because it's that level where you either become a man or you get your resume out. Guys are flipping and break. If there's former major leaguers pitching in that league, prospects, guys have more command of their off-speed pitches or secondary pitches than their fastballs. So the Double-A level has been very rewarding. And I've figured out a few more things that I always wanted to implement. And when I was at the major league level, we didn't work on a lot of situational hitting, which is something I disagree with, because if I get my mindset to that, or if I don't get my mindset to that, then I'm going to expect to be doing it well in a major league game. I've never worked on it. All I'm working on is my swing. Well, how productive is that for you to get in these situations? And you've seen it over the years. There's nothing worse than watching hitters that don't move the ball with runners in scoring position. And that's because they don't work on it, one, and they're more committed to hitting a home run than they are putting the ball in play and moving a runner. Mm-hmm. And those are things that they're thinking. Mm-hmm. So some of that stuff bothers me, but the guys I've had in Double-A have been wonderful. It's been a lot of joy, and they're eager to learn. And I don't have, like I did in the big leagues, I don't have as many gurus to counter. Everybody in the big league's got a guru somewhere. And so after the game, they're calling 5-10 people. It's not as bad in the minor leagues. Well,
yeah. Dude, it seems like the guys there are buying into it and the results speak for themselves. So, when you actually can see the results and it's working, it's almost like, when I talk to athletes, I'm like, you want to be player A who's, when we're talking about nutrition, player A who's great shape, very efficient body, or player B, average shape, average results, so not as fast, not as quick. Obviously, every single person I talk to would rather be player A. But just because you want to be them, you want to be great. Do you really mean that at your core? Like, are you going to put in the work that will help you? Are you going to eat clean? Are you going to, work on your breathing, your thinking? Are you going to do the BP that is going to help you? the fact that this stuff's out there and people aren't doing it, and they know what kind of player they want to be, player A, and the options are out there to do it, but a lot of people still don't do it. That's just what boggles me, boggles my mind.
Well, that's something that you're talking about, the BP and the stuff. The BP that I do is not one of those where you sit there and you're just taking swings and you just stay in the box. So you're getting out of the box. You're taking a deep breath. You're letting the previous pitch go. You're setting your plan for what you want to get on the next pitch. So there's 2 things you're working on. 3, you're gonna. Okay, I've set my plan in. Okay, I'm gonna look for a fastball away. Now I'm gonna get my body ready. And I locked in my plan. And now it's just about starting sooner and slower and attacking that plan. Mm-hmm. So immediately, and it's scientific proof, if you take a deep breath right now, and it's done correctly, not real fast, it's in slow through the nose, out slow through the mouth, as slow as you can, it allows you to relax more than you were in your previous state, no matter how relaxed you were prior to that.
Lowers your heart rate.
Lowers your heart rate. It allows the quick twitch muscles to fire.
Yep.
I did a thing last year that I want to keep doing. The Ian Kinsler, I don't know if you saw that, where they ran up the mountain and then started shooting they shot at a target. Okay, and they all were canning the bullseye. They were hitting the target. And maybe not the bullseye, but they were hitting the target. Mm-hmm. And the sniper said, is that pretty cool? They were training with a Navy SEAL. And he goes, yeah, that's really cool. And he goes, okay, now we're in the heat of battle. Now you got guys shooting, you got bullets flying all by you. Or you got the bases loaded, 3-2 count in the World Series. Now let's see if you can control your breathing. So he had them run down the mountain. Then they had to run back up. Then run down. Then run back up. Now get down and shoot the target. So what I did is I had a guy run to first base, run back, jog to first base, jog back, and then we took 6 swings. I said, bases loaded, 3-2 count. So learning those situations, you had talked about it earlier, about being able to control your breathing, which is going to control the way you think and your thinking capabilities, which then allows your body to work in a proficient way.
And put yourself in an uncomfortable position, whether it's this BP that, you're going to get beat. You're not going to have that feel good where you're going to just be crushing balls and everything, and getting away with stuff. You're going to be uncomfortable. And my college coach always said, I know you said it a couple of times, you want to be comfortable being uncomfortable. If you can get comfortable being uncomfortable, because in this game, there's going to be so many situations, so much failure, you're going to be uncomfortable so much. Right. You might as well, in practice and getting prepared, put yourself in those uncomfortable positions so when you get to them, whether it's visualization or anything, you act like you've been there before and you know how to handle it.
Before. Yes.
So, man. So, man, we pretty much hit everything. Anything else that we're missing?
No, I mean, a lot of this kind of was intertwined, like the slowing the game down is all about your breathing and stuff. Perspective of a hitter, I think we've touched it. It's one of those things that there's so many things that you could go over. But the bottom line is you got to talk that player into having enough confidence in you to understand that this is going to work. The drill that I came up with, the batting practice I came up with, I was in my 3rd week with this kid, and he was still struggling, and I was going to can it. And then one day, he got it. And the light bulb turned on. And the light bulb has not turned off since. My boy's hitting 4th today for the Rays, or 5th today for the Rays. So, excuse me.
That's awesome.
Once it clicks, it clicks and you know how to do it. But like anything that has precision and accuracy with it, you have to work on it. I've got a dartboard over here. All right. The goal is to hit the bullseye. Do you throw the dart as hard as you can to hit the bullseye? No, because you want to be under control, precise. So some of this involves less is more. Less effort is more control of the barrel, which is more control of your body to get more control of the barrel. You're playing with a Pro V1 ball, and guys are throwing 98 to 100 miles an hour. All you have to do is get the head to the ball. And yet we're trying to create more power. That's where I think the biggest problem comes.
Dude, and yeah, totally. And you talked about the perspective of a hitter earlier, or a couple minutes ago, and we didn't really zero in on that yet because, you know, you're talking. There's ways you can put in for the physical side, do different mechanic drills, whatever. But as a hitter, the mindset, you know, you talk about a Mike Trout quote when he worked with Ken Ravizza, talking about failure. You know, when I talk about a strong mindset, I talk about how to handle failure and adversity, which is going to be a lot of baseball, any sport you're playing. How to have consistent, high confidence. You know, it's going to go up and down, but try to build confidence as much as you can. And then visualization is another huge thing for the mindset. But the thing Mike Trout talks about is the positive self-talk. Try to get those negative thoughts out of your head. And to have one of the best players who ever played the game talk about when he started off, before, you know, working with sports psychologists or really honing in on his mental side, you know, he would get out and have these, you know, negative self-talk. But as Ken Ravizza says, as soon as you feel those negative thoughts coming in, try to flip it, turn it to positive self-talk. And then that strengthens your mindset more than anything, brings your confidence back. Because, you know, let's be honest, if everyone had confidence all the time, no one would ever go into slumps. But that's the reason there's slumps. Right. Confidence is a huge reason. And confidence is more so anything, mind and how you think and your perspective on life, on baseball, whatever sport you're playing. So yeah, I loved when you put in that Mike Trout quote about, you know, how he's thinking in his head, the negative thoughts, and once he could get those more positive and overtake the negative thoughts, then his talent, you know, just takes over.
Sometimes we get conflicted. For me, what I like to work on with guys is like, okay, Brandon Guyer before he gets in the box, he's looking for a 5.6. Okay? I know a lot of mental guys say, try not to think about what you're doing before you get in the box and react to your plan. Your brain never stops. So you determine whether you're reiterating the positive stuff. Here it comes, 5.67. Here it comes, 5.6, 5.6, 5.6. And then the little devil jumps up and says, man, he has a pretty good splitter. Or man, he has a good slider. You better call timeout and get those conflicting devil and angel thoughts off your shoulder. Because we talked about conflicted thoughts before. Get you late on the fastball and in between on the off speed. Yep. You know, so staying committed to that pitch. How you do it is on you. But once you get in that box, if you have any negative thoughts at all, and I know it's easier said than done. I know it's been 40 years, but I still remember those negative thoughts. You know, you're 1 for 20 and your whole family's at the game, or, you know, just some of that stuff to try to get it out. You have to stay committed to that pitch, and it's hard sometimes because your brain doesn't stop working. So for me, reiteration of what you're looking for once you get in that box keeps the distraction and the negative thoughts out.
Love it, man. Well, anything else? I feel like we covered so much, and I know that any person, any player level that listens to this will be able to take out so much from it, and hopefully they can apply the BP, or maybe they'll think differently on deck when they're at the plate. Little things like that. If they can take little things like that out of this, you know, I feel like we did our job. So, dude, that was awesome. Anything else we're missing or anything? I feel like
for me, we've said this 100 times. Everything you do starts with a thought, and your thoughts enhance or hinder your actions. Mm-hmm. And that's in any facet of life that you're going to participate in, but especially competition.
Yep.
You know, what you're thinking prior to doing what the task at hand, that's going to help or hinder.
Dude, it makes me think of a Buddha quote, which is what we think we become. And it's so true.
Yes.
Or Napoleon Hill had a quote that says, we are who we are because of the thoughts that enter and occupy our mind. So it goes back to Mike Trout. If you have those consistent negative thoughts, you're probably going to just turn in, your confidence is going to go down. You're going to turn in a negative person, you know, bring people down. But if those thoughts that occupy your mind are more consistent positive, not just off the field, which is great, it's going to help that, but on the field, you're going to have those positive thoughts, positive body language. People are going to feed off of you. You know, it's everything, man.
Good. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I can't believe how much I've learned over the years and wish that I could have applied it more into my game. But I think all the very successful hitters, sometimes they do this without knowing they're doing it. And some of it do it by design because they know it works for them. You know, people adhere to principles that make them successful, regardless of what facet of life it's in. So if you know this is going to be good for you, why you wouldn't do it, I just is baffling to me.
So yeah, I agree. I feel like there's so many guys out there might not even know they're doing it, might not know what they're doing with their swing, but maybe they're thinking the right way, but they don't even realize it's just what they do. But then you have those guys who I play with so many in the minor league, best great Dominican player, Venezuelan, Korean, whatever, all this talent, but he didn't have that just natural ability to think the right way or put work in to learn how to think that way. And so they fizzle out. Then you have a guy with average talent, but then he learns to acquires the mindset to really make the most of that average ability, but that'll take him above that person who had the great ability but didn't do the other little things, and, you know, therefore they were out of the game because of it. So it's really crazy, man. Like, some people do it naturally, but then you got the players who, they have good talent, but not as God-given as some of these other guys, but they're doing nutrition, eating, breathing, mindset, recovery, you know, all this stuff, proper training, sleeping good, recovering. They're doing the little things to, you know, when that talent gap at every level shrinks and shrinks and shrinks, the game speeds up at every level. You know, when they're doing that, they're making the most of their abilities. They're going to, you know, climb above those guys who maybe were born with a little more talent. And that's the name of the game, you know.
And I think some of them that didn't do it, when they get out, are going to be disappointed that they didn't do it. And I don't know, you don't have to be a Phi Beta Kappa or the valedictorian to be a good baseball player. There's been several players that we know that couldn't spell the in either language that were very successful. And I'm not saying that about Manny Ramirez. I have heard some things about him being a little different, a little not your sharpest pencil in the box. But I'll tell you what, speaking of the box, when he got in the box, there was nobody smarter.
Yeah.
He knew how to prepare. I mean, as far as a hitter, he was genius. And I did hear, we're talking about hunting pitches and staying committed. One of the pitchers that was on the MLB the other day was talking about Manny and said his first at bat, nobody on, 3 straight fastballs, right down, 4 spot, belt hot. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3. Next at bat, man on second and third, slider, home run. He was looking for the slider the whole time, and he was staying committed to it. That's smart. You know, he ended up hitting another double that day on a pitch he was looking for, and I think he also struck out again. And again, I'm a big proponent of hunting those pitches until you get to 2 strikes. And then once you get to 2 strikes, go ahead and look fastball 7 and react. That's the only time you have to cover everything. Yep. But yeah, he was a lot smarter in the box than I was.
Same here, man. He's one of the smartest ever, you know?
Yeah.
But great stuff. Well, you know, I know, Nelly, that what you wrote up and sent to me, I know you plan in the future probably putting it into some sort of book form or something. So everyone watching, be on the lookout for that in the future, because I'm telling you, it's gold. it's stuff that can only help you elevate your game. So that could be in the future. But yeah, Nelly, thank you so much for jumping on. Always love talking with you, love working with you, and who knows, maybe we'll do something together down the road. But yeah, man, it's always a pleasure. So thank you so much.
I'd look very forward to that. And likewise, my best to Mom and the kids. It's good to see your face. It's good to hear your voice. And I'm glad you're really happy with what you're doing. And there's no doubt you'll be successful. And anything I can do to help you or the people that you're working with, I'm in.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of ways. So thank you, Nelly. I look forward to it, man.